Here we go. Well, hello, hello, hello. And just for a moment, I lost myself, but Sean Mahon of Successfully Social, welcoming you all to another edition of Successfully Social, just to get that in twice in case you missed the point there. And delighted that I've got two amazing guests and my amazing co-host, Sandra Watson. So without further ado, in fact, I'm going to do some brief introductions. So very quickly, before I allow the wonderful guests to speak for themselves, we've got the delightful Cynthia Bazin. Yay! And we've got the amazing Susan Winter. So we'll round of applause for Susan. And where would we be without poor Sandra? Actually, Sandra Watson, not feeling too great today. But so Sandra, it's and of course myself, Sean Mahon, and it's really good that you can join us today. So thank you very much for that. Now, a quick introduction. I'm sure everybody knows our guest today, but I'm going to do this as well as I can. But Cynthia knows that I have a problem with a certain pronunciation of a certain town in the States, so I'll try this again. First guest is Cynthia Bazin. Cynthia, of course, is CEO and president of Smart Chick. And many people probably know that Cynthia's had a really interesting career in terms of what she's done. So clearly Smart Chick is very successful now, but prior to Smart Chick, Cynthia worked in the correction side of things and this is the bit I struggle with as a Brit, Connecticut. Is that it? Is that somewhat good?
Very good. Connecticut, yes, you got it.
Connecticut. Whew, I've been rehearsing that all day. So Connecticut, yay! Thank you. Thanks for that one. So Cynthia worked in the penal industry in Connecticut. I don't know who's ringing the doorbell there, but we'll move swiftly on. And then Cynthia moved into a private investigation role in Vegas. In fact, Cynthia, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself before we bring Susan in?
Yeah, I mean, basically what she started is that I started in the prison system back in Connecticut, let's see, 20 plus years ago, and was there for about 10 years or so. My education's in criminal justice and psychology. From working in the correctional system in Connecticut, became a private investigator and started doing internal affairs, running investigation units for large companies all over the place. Worked in Vegas for 10 years. Oversaw investigations and security in the casino industry, and in 2011 I started Smart Chick, which I do now, which is a mentoring company for women.
And of course, the subject of the show really is very much about entrepreneurs and that first entrepreneurial step. So clearly, Cynthia's going to be sharing her business and some of the recent developments in her business, but also what it felt like when she first stepped on the rung of setting up that business. And I know Susan's going to be doing the same. So Susan, I've neglected you a little bit there, and as a compensation, another round of applause there. Yeah, so Susan, now we've had you on before, and we're delighted that you're able to join us again. And Susan, I know you've had an amazing history in terms of appearing on Oprah. You fronted your own show on CBS, I believe, for the Huffington Post. Again, like Cynthia, speaker and author. And we're going to ask you to talk about the book a little bit later, but one of your most successful books, of course, was Allowing Magnificence. And again, you're going to be sharing with us some of your views about the new entrepreneur. But do you want to tell us something about your more recent projects, Susan, for those people that may not know you as well?
Oh, well, actually, I've started doing videos. And it's funny, Sean, because my strongest suit was on camera. I was on camera for about 20 years as a host and moderator, interviewing other people. And then when the book came out, Older Women, Younger Men, it was interesting to be interviewed, because all the time that the interviewers are talking to me, I was thinking to myself, why did you jump over that question? I would have been all on that, or I would do this. So I have left that out of all that I do. Writing is very new to me. It's only in the last 10 or 15 years. I never took any courses in it. It was the way that one was to express themselves around the year 2000. I had something to say, wrote my first book because I had something to say. So now that I'm adding video, the only thing that stopped me was the technology.
Right.
I mean, literally, I have that kind of a brain that, you know, you might notice they don't give you instructions for the computer. They don't give you instructions for any of this. So I bought my my HD camera 2 years ago, but I needed to hire a video guy to show me how to make it go.
Right.
And my tech guy is my tech guy to make it go. So then first I have to learn how to do it. Now you have to be your editor, you have to be your lighting person, you have to learn Final Cut. I mean, it's like, I just wanted to talk on camera. But I'm so happy that now I'm just doing the videos, and I plan on doing several each week because I think people can absorb dense information a lot better when they see it, and we tend to be lazy, we don't want to read. So I'm using that to augment some of my articles. So that's kind of my new push.
Yeah, and we'll come on to that a little bit later. And I think there's a couple of interesting threads there. One of the things you were talking about, which is very relevant to our topic as well, is making it go. And I think if there's, and it's kind of amusing, but I think if there's anything that describes It's Lonely at the Top, the entrepreneur's story, it's a little bit about making our new businesses go as well. Yes. So perhaps, as we're talking to yourself just at the moment, Susan, going back to when you first set up your business, what were the feelings that were going through your head in terms of making it go? And I asked that for a lot of people in the stream who are just setting up their new businesses or just contemplating being about to launch a new business. What were the difficult challenges for you?
Well, my understanding was very limited. I came from understanding that I needed to express ideas, and I had one venue that was to write articles. So when I set up my first website, I spent about 6 months writing 50 articles for each category. And when I expanded the website 3 years later, I wrote another 50 stationary articles. Now that's a lot of work, but I only knew what I knew at the time. And just like any entrepreneurial business, we start with what we do well.
Yeah.
We do it to the best of our ability, and then we see over the horizon, oh my goodness, I didn't even consider this. Mm-hmm. You move on to another tier of making it go. Then you come over that horizon like, oh, I didn't even think about marketing. I assumed they'd find me. I mean, I literally did. I thought, oh, well, they'll find me. I didn't know anything about anything. And slowly I've had to add staff and get guidance. And it has been my learning curve on what to do next, sequentially. And right. Each time I get to a certain place, I'm ready then to take in more and new information. When you're first focused on the initial steps, you can't really add in new material. It's enough to do what you have to do. I think you have to complete that, come over the horizon, reassess, and then you're ready to take in new information to add on to yourself, to refine it, to enhance it. And I think it's an ongoing learning curve for all of us.
Yeah, so it's a really good point. I'm going to invite you in a second, Sandra, because I know in terms of some of your businesses, we've had chats along these lines before. But I think if I can just turn to Cynthia, I know previously, Cynthia, we've spoken about your initial steps into business, and you clearly had quite a diverse background beforehand. So you had this vision, Cynthia, as to Smart Chick and what that would be all about. Did the initial first 6 months, first year match up with that vision? And if not, what were the challenges?
Well, I think the initial challenge is coming from the corporate world to the entrepreneurial world. I mean, you're in a business, you're doing what you're an expert at for 20 plus years, and like Susan's saying, you know, people are coming to you, you know what I mean? And that your initial thought is that, oh, they're just going to find me. And that is so not true. That I think that's one of the biggest leaps from coming from the corporate world to the entrepreneurial world, is that people aren't just coming to you, you know what I mean, with your business, with your expertise, but that now you have to seek out those people, you know, that are going to resonate with you. So that was a huge change, because before it was like, you know what, this is what I do. People are coming to me and asking me for advice and hiring me on, but now I have to seek it. So how do I get that message out? How do I reach those people that are going to resonate with me? So that was the number one challenge, is really kind of testing out the waters and figuring out, you know, who and how are people going to resonate with me. And that initial vision that I thought that it was going to be in-person, local, people that were going to resonate me, that was totally turned upside down and ended up being social media. That my reach, it ended up resonating with people on social media. So the in-person stuff, you know what, kind of got, squashed, and I'm doing Skype and Google Hangout and stuff on social media, and that's the main of my business. The second thing, as far as the to-go thing, is that when you work in some corporate jobs, I will say in leadership in the corporate world, it's very black and white decisions. You're either going to do this or you're going to do that, and there's a lot of perfectionism that happens in the corporate environment, especially where I worked. You have to throw that all away, and that was another challenge that I had to probably overcome, that thinking about things a lot versus just doing my thing. So that was probably another barrier that I had to get over. And then I would have to say, again, I've talked with you about this before, Sandra and Sean especially, is that I didn't come from the entrepreneurial world, and my friends and family didn't come from the entrepreneurial world, so I had to quickly start surrounding myself with people that that would inspire me and I could learn from to get myself successful and moving forward.
That's a brilliant answer. I'm just going to invite Sandra in. Just before I do that, I'm going to put a little comment up from our good friend Tanya Lumiere. She put a couple of comments here, but Tanya, I think Tanya's really endorsing what you say here, what everyone's saying. It can be overwhelming coming from a land biz, or maybe the corporate analogy you just gave us, yes, Cynthia, to moving to an online biz. Phew. And I know Tanya's doing some really, really excellent work in terms of design, but I know, again, for Tanya, that would have been a journey and continues to be a journey. So, Sandra, I've been very rude. I've not invited you in so far, so my apologies. Given what we've just been speaking about, that initial journey and the way Susan and Cynthia have described it, do their descriptions resonate with your experience when you had your spa business and other businesses?
Not really, in the sense that they're both talking about the online aspect of it, and that was not something that I had the ability or the privilege to do. For one thing, I was in manufacturing in my very first business, and I had to have people hired on before the business even opened its doors, because we had to be able to produce. And so right away it was a different environment mentally and physically. So you had to be up and running, and Cynthia, you brought up a really good point in that you said that you did not come from an entrepreneurial background, yeah, a family, and a lot of your friends perhaps didn't. And I would venture to say that most people that are entrepreneurs that get into business are in the same boat. I didn't either. I knew nothing about business when I got into it. You ask me about a business plan or a profit and loss statement or a cash flow, it's like, how much is in the bank? I don't know. I mean, I did know how much was in the bank, but then I didn't know what I could do with it. But I quickly learned that don't spend any money until you know what's going to be going out. And within a year, I learned that was similar to cash flow analysis. So I don't think that any entrepreneur knows all the parts. And Susan, you brought that up. You do with what you do at the time what's the most important thing, whether it's an online business or it's a land business, as Tanya refers to it, and I call it brick and mortar. You're running after the hot note at the time, and boy, I think both of you nailed it when you said, okay, when I opened up the spa business, it was like, okay, they're gonna love this, it's beautiful, blah blah blah, build it and they'll come, right?
Yep.
No, it's not the way it would
happen.
It's called spend all your money and then cry a lot. And then you realize nobody's going to cry with you.
Right. So and that's a really good point, Sandra. And I don't know if anyone's seeing this. I'm trying to swap views, and it seems to be quite slow. I don't know what it's like at your end, but presuming that everyone can see us swap different views here. There is that element. Cynthia, you put it very well. Sandra, you put it very well. Susan, you alluded to it earlier, where you kind of think, right, I'm here, here's my message, hello everybody, hello world, and then there's that kind of realization maybe you have to do things a little bit differently. But there's also that thing that we've discussed before about beliefs, and that need to keep that belief in yourself and surround yourself, like you said, Cynthia, with good people. So what Dave said, and you'll be delighted, Cynthia, that Dave Moore is in the audience. Hooray. Nice to see you, Dave. Hooray! Hurrah! Hurrah! Very UK hurrah to you. Woohoo! Here's the thing. Actually, Sandra, do you want to read this one out?
Sure. Dave Moore says, when you finally get going in your business after you have dealt with all the challenges, roadblocks, and negativity and questioning, you realize that believing in yourself was all that mattered, and it was worth it.
So, Susan, coming back to yourself, thinking of Dave's comment there, and you're on a learning curve, but what are your views about self-belief, necessary self-belief you had to have to move things forward in your business, Susan?
I never doubted what I was capable of doing in my one niche form of expression.
Right.
I think, to piggyback on the other conversation, what I had no idea that I'd have to know as an entrepreneur is how many other aspects of business I need to be aware of. I know, and I have a ton of confidence in what I do, and that I do it very well. It was that, when you work in a corporation, they do it for you. Yeah. You're supposed to do your job, and you have a familiarization with other people's skills. But you've got this person, this organization, and that company. You don't have to do it all yourself. So at the same time that we are specializing in whatever our product or service is, and we're becoming very niche and very focused, as an entrepreneur, you also have to have an enormous overview of everything else that's happening in business from soup to nuts. Because if you don't, you'll lose it. And so that's the conflict, narrow and wide at the same time. And I think that's what many of us struggle against. And I think the thing that Dave was saying that cuts through is it's only your sheer desire to do what you do that you know you do so well and you can't wait to do and share with people that keeps you going through that massive learning curve and frustration and roadblocks about all the outer issues that are required. Beyond, above and beyond the service you provide. Just the way to get it out there, the way to market it, the way to advertise it, the cash flow, all that stuff. So it's a very interesting challenge.
Yeah, and it's a really good point because, I was reading the statistics, and in fact I put something in the invitation. It's really quite scary, isn't it, that in the States it's something like 80 to 90% of businesses fail within the first couple of years. Similar statistic in the UK. So belief is important, obviously, but I think you both of you have alluded to the fact that surrounding yourself with a team is important too, and not thinking you have to do everything yourself. So if I can come back to Cynthia for a moment. Cynthia, I know networking is a really important thing to you, and I know you surround yourself with really good people. Does that include people that outsource certain acts for you, or is it all about just taking inspiration from other people?
Well, if I can touch on really quickly what Susan said about the past thing, about the motivation and stuff like that, and then I'll get to that, is that, if you don't mind, Sean, just about the motivational part, is that for me, you know what, I think everybody knows that 99%, 100% of the time that you see me out there, I'm driven, motivated, and I'm always talking about believing in yourself. But I think we all have those doubts, and I do have days, and I think most of us have days that, we don't believe in ourselves. We question what we do. And you know what, as an entrepreneur, within that first year especially, you are going to super doubt yourself and say, what am I doing here? I'm not worthy, you know what I mean? And you're going to want to give up. So I think, and I did that too, because you start some things and things aren't right connecting and you doubt yourself and you almost question whether you're right to be an entrepreneur. So for those of you that are starting a business or want to start a business, I say, expect that you are going to doubt yourself, but you've got to have that core belief on, most days that, that you believe in your message, and you have to do some things to keep that motivation going. But don't be surprised, if you start doubting yourself. I think that happens a lot in the entrepreneurial world. And it happens to me, on new projects. You get tired, you get, a little bit unfocused, and you start questioning yourself. I do it, you're going to do it, and just, you got to go back to your core message and your core beliefs of why you started. So I just have a lot of people in my life that are entrepreneurs that, they're ready to give up and just turn it all in. And I just say, don't. It's just sometimes a 15% shift.
Actually,
Good.
Actually, sorry to talk over you for a minute, but you're absolutely right. Thank you for the challenge there, Cynthia, because you've actually brought me back on point, and I was in danger of drifting off a little bit. What would be really interesting? No, it was a really good thing to bring us back to Susan's earlier point, and the reality check. You know, we're on a hangout here, but we've all had entrepreneurial experiences. We've all had businesses. We all continue to have businesses. But it isn't true, is it, that every day you're punching the air and saying, hallelujah, this is fantastic, even though you've got that pervasive vision which took you to set the business, which took you into setting the business up in the first place. We have those moments when we're stepping into something new where we do feel challenged. So continuing with that theme, have you got any practical advice, Cynthia, and then I'll ask Susan the same question, that would help a new entrepreneur in those certain circumstances?
It's a roller coaster ride. I mean, I'm just going to tell you, it's a roller coaster ride. With every new challenge that you start, it's going to go up and it's going to go down. So I think the first thing is realize it. You know what I mean? Is that you can't expect, you know, in the corporate world there's ups and downs too, but you know what? Every single day that I went into my job, you know, in the organization, I kind of knew how things were going to flow. I knew the personalities. But you know what? You may gain a huge client one day and another one might drop off, you know, a huge client. And so first of all, realizing that, you know what, in the entrepreneurial world, at least in my world, you know what, it's not going to be like this. It's always like this. So I wake up every day going, okay, what's coming at me? You know, and focusing on what you can do. You know, not dreading and not focusing in on that client that might have, you know, got dropped off, or, you know, something that's happening. You can't, you know, engage your mind and keep your mind on those negative thoughts. So for the new entrepreneur, understanding that there is going to be the roller coaster ride. And for me, you know, it has to be, you know what, keeping with my core values, you know, knowing, you know, what I'm going to accept, not going to accept, and having that core balance in my life. You know, some people say there is no balance. For me, balance is I take care of myself. You know, if I don't take care of myself, you know what, I tell you, that first year, you know what, I would have gone crazy. You know what, I have to work out. There's certain things that I have to do in my life to keep myself, you know, a little bit like this when the entrepreneurial road, you know, is like that. So, anyways, I don't know if I answered the question fully.
You did, and I'll tell you what I really liked actually there. What I love about both you guys, by the way, is your honesty. And I think that's something which will really resonate with the audience. But words that I've just jotted down, Cynthia, and I'll replay them to you, were you always have to, or for you, core values are really important. Mm-hmm. So even when there are challenges, you've got certain limits and things that you will accept and you won't accept. I think that really resonates with me. And what you said as well, which is really, really interesting, is focus on those things that you didn't use these words, so I'm paraphrasing you, but focus on those things that you can influence. So we're not going to be able to change everything, are we? But those things that we can influence, rather than get pulled into the, oh, maybe there's a client over there I didn't fully satisfy, spiraling down into despair, focus on the good things. And I know it sounds a little bit trite.
It's hope, but you know what?
It works, yeah.
You have to, and at least that's what I have to do.
Susan, you're looking very thoughtful there, so I'm going to pull you in. What are your thoughts with what Cynthia's just said?
I love it. Cynthia and Sandra have had businesses with larger products and services, and so I'm learning as I listen to them. And actually, Sean, it never occurred to me to have anybody help me, other than a guy to make my website go. I had no idea. I didn't know what I didn't know. I knew my field, and again, it's only been a year and a half since I actually hired people to assist me, put them on a monthly payment, and so I have a staff. I was trying to do it all by myself, and the freedom that it has offered me, but it was a big deal for me to invest in myself. It was almost painful to put out money greater than money I was taking in to get to the next level. So that was a format of, do I believe in myself? Yeah, I do believe in myself. And that was the way I expressed it. And it has helped me tremendously because, and I also have a requirement for the people that work with me intimately. They've got to love the message, and they've got to really like me, because otherwise it won't work. I want them to be like a family. I personally need that. If I don't have that close connection, I don't think they're going to be happy doing their job. But remember, my work is a little bit different than Cynthia's and Sandra's. So it's, in that way, I can afford to have a smaller staff that is just more dedicated to my message in general. But I'm still learning. I'm still learning. I don't. And I'm learning from this video right now. You know, so it's
cool.
It's wonderful.
No, that's really cool, and that's a great answer. And what I liked about that was, in your instance, obviously, Susan, you want people that you take onto staff that resonate with your core values. So there we are. You know, we've gone back to Cynthia's core values again, which is really, really cool. And again, you've said that you're learning. And actually, do you know what? There are a couple of comments in the comment tracker we'll put on that resonate with this. From Susan Anderson. So, Sandra, again, I'm just going to ping this up if you want to give people a relief from my voice for a minute.
Susan Anderson, MSS. Doing your thing is really a team thing, so build a great team of resources and support.
And another one from the lovely lady.
Yes, keeping the core balance is critical.
So I think we've got a lot of resonance so far in terms of what's coming out. So Susan, it's still a learning process for you. Again, one thing I thought was really cool in terms of what you said, I like the way you described expanding your team as a form of self-belief in what you do. Mm-hmm. Because obviously, if you weren't confident about your business, you might be reluctant to see that as an investment, because you'd be thinking this is taking money out. But the reality, of course, is when you're, you know, to call it another phrase, perhaps when you're outsourcing, or you're realizing that actually your value is in the messages that you put out, not in creating the perfect WordPress site. Then you become more confident, knowing that the less time you spend on those activities, the more time you have available to get out there. And that's been your experience, Susan, hasn't it, lately, I think?
I can't even begin to tell you I started way below zero in my awareness. I had a landing page in 2008. The book had come out and was a bestseller, and I didn't even have a website. So, you know, so I am kind of like the little slow kid in the class with these ladies and with yourself, Sean. And when I first was told to get a Twitter account, I had a panic attack because I didn't know what that involved. Right. I actually spent 8 to 9 hours a day responding to everyone and trying to digging through their feed to find a tweet to retweet. I didn't know you didn't have to do it. I didn't know how to turn off the signals coming through to my email. I don't know if any of your entrepreneurs have started from this point, but that has been mine.
I have.
And so the technical side of learning what I need to know in a time period where the technology is shifting so quickly, getting a working vocabulary and understanding that. And again, my career is a little bit different in that mine is such a specific philosophy that for my team members, I don't want them to get a paycheck. I want them to love and believe what they do, because otherwise it just won't work. For me, it won't. I don't want them to be there unless they get a kick out of being aligned with that concept, the philosophy. I just won't have anybody else that doesn't. And it's a very intimate group, and it's very small, but the focus is very specific. So I really appreciate hearing what Sandra and Cynthia have been saying, because they've got big machinery in place, and I'd love to hear how the next phases of that.
Well, actually, there's a good cue, Sandra, to invite you in. So let's hear about your big machinery, Sandra.
Oh my gosh! I mean, I'm in this social media world now, but I go back in my mind to some of the differences, and it's like they're day and night. I mean, I understand what we're discussing here, but then I go back to when I started in business for the first time. My, the first piece of equipment I bought was a $500,000 press. That was one of the bigger investments. I certainly had many smaller ones along the way. A $30,000. The first time I bought something like that, I thought it was going to drip and sweat, and I had to make money on a regular basis, or we were out of business the next month. And I think so many times the things that we're talking about here or have been discussing, if you didn't make that $100,000 this month, you would not be out of business, because it's a solopreneur for a while, and then it becomes a little bit more when you add the team and everything. I had to add everybody, and I had to make payroll. I had to do all of that stuff right away. There was no waiting from the first month. And so I look at the next piece of equipment I bought was a $900,000 piece of equipment. That was in my second year of business. I mean, my first year, I'm talking tens of thousands of dollars, and this is for a person who'd never been in business.
Wow.
And so I'm looking at dollars in the bank. What do I do with employees and all of this kind of stuff? And you do what, Dave is so correct, and what we've talked about is correct. I believed in myself. I knew I could do it, but I knew I couldn't do it alone. From day one, my team was very important. Yes, they were employees. They were not subcontractors, so to speak, but it doesn't make any difference. It's still a team that surrounds you. And we all had to work together like a fine wheel that would turn, or things could go very, very badly. And you have to believe in yourself, but then at the end of the day, I'd sit there when everybody'd go home, and I'd sit at the walls and I'd look and I'd say, what in the heck am I doing here? I mean, I wanted to cry sometimes, and I'm not a crying person, but it was so alone at the end, because I couldn't, what was I going to say? How could I tell you I'm scared? How could I tell you what happens if I don't make the payroll? What happens to me personally if I can't do this? Because everybody's depending on me. I mean, Susan, that team is depending on you. Yes, no, it's not a paycheck per se in your mind, but to them, it's their life. I mean, it is what they're going to depend on to make their life what they want to be. And I wanted them to have a better life. So all of that stuff runs through your mind, and all of a sudden now you're responsible. You're the leader. People look at you as having the answers, and you don't always have all those answers.
That's a great point. In fact, Sandra, you made a brilliant point. Thank you so much. I'm going to come back to that point, Sandra. Perhaps you can elaborate on it in a second. But I do want to put Dave up for a moment. Dave always puts some amazing comments on, and so amazing that I can't actually find it. and now I have, for you. The sweat was just dripping down just for a moment. But there you go. Cynthia and Susan and Sandra, lots of accolades from Dave in terms of your authenticity. I'd absolutely support that. Very generous of you. Thank you, Dave, in terms of the interview. What Dave says, you won't be able to see all of it, so I'll read the bit that doesn't appear. But Dave says, when you get this mentality of dealing with things, your life is still a roller coaster. I think we'd all agree with that. But now you spend more time in the car than you do tied to the tracks. I think that's a really good point. So it's all about being out there rather than being stuck there. Dave, beautifully put, as always. So Sandra, I love the point you just made in the context of your business, and perhaps this resonates with Susan and Cynthia too. We focused a little bit upon, put my teeth in, we focused a little bit upon being solopreneurs. But in the instance you've just described, you've got employees, or you've got a team that are responsible, that are looking to you for a paycheck at the end of the day. And I think that's a really good point. So you've stepped into a new business, you bought your press, you've invested a lot of money in capital equipment, and you've got to make sure that these guys who've trusted you with their livelihoods are paid. What's that feel like, and how do you manage that, Sandra?
In the beginning, you're so excited because you have your business. I mean, we all know that feeling. It's like, yes, my dream's coming true. I knew I could do it better. I knew I could do it well, and I felt like I had the tools. And then all of a sudden, I will say, and I want to put this in right now, I think that one of the greatest gifts that we are given as an entrepreneur is that we cannot do it all ourselves. Yeah. We have to depend on other people. If you do not take that gift and open it and resource out things that you can't do, then ultimately you will never realize the full impact of the dream that you have been dreaming. It won't happen. It can't, because you can't be everything and do everything. So in my case, I couldn't run a press. I couldn't take camera shots and put them on film, because at that point we were still doing some film and everything. I couldn't do the design. I couldn't cut the paper. I couldn't run the press. I couldn't mix the ink. I mean, I couldn't do any of these things. So I had to depend on other people. All of a sudden now, this magnitude of what that responsibility is does come crashing down, just as much as Susan feels it when she realized she couldn't do everything, and when Susan realized it's not like the corporate world, it now is you. It depends on you. And yes, you have that team. They come in, but let me tell you, they don't come in and do things until it's approved by you. They don't just overstep you. So they're still looking at you as being the leader and the resource that's pulling it all together. So when I look at, loneliness, yeah, it was really lonely, because I thought, if I fail, how will I explain it to people? How will I do that? And okay, is it a failure? We all believe, as entrepreneurs and positive thinking people, nothing's a failure. We learn. But by golly, I know if I don't make that paycheck to them, that's a failure. And that's what I don't want to have happen. So you get down and you go to the very bottom of your gut and you pull out things that you never thought were there, and then you go another day, and you go another minute, and then you go another day, and pretty soon you look back at the things you've accomplished that now are normal, and then you start taking on a new adventure, as Susan pointed out, the new thing that comes in that you never thought of. You take on that big account that you thought you could handle, then you realize, no, I can't. I don't think I can. And you find a way to get it done. So, yeah, it's scary. It's very scary. And anybody that tells you it's not, I think Dave Moore said, they're lying.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I'm going to reflect some of your phrases back, because I've never heard it quite described in that way. But we talk about comfort zone, but you were talking about getting down into the bottom of your gut, so quite a visceral thing, and it's about that digging deep. So I'm sensing from looking at Cynthia and Susan that resonates with you guys. Do either of you have a comment on Sandra's particular point there? I'll throw that one open.
Yeah,
sorry.
I would love to hear what Cynthia has to say about this.
Okay, Cynthia.
And I was going to toss it to you, Susan, because I was deep in thought.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you know what? It may not be eloquent. Again, I'm just real, and I just throw it out there. What I was thinking about when Sandra was talking is that, you know what? I am my biggest critic. Is that honestly, some of the things that, it isn't so as deep as what Sandra had to go through, but you know what? I have that expectation that, I have to succeed in everything. I am very hard on myself. I'm a perfectionist. I want things to go well. And so if something doesn't quite go right, honestly, the rest of the world probably doesn't notice it as much as I do. And so I just have to really, for myself, check myself. That's what I have to say, is that, when those thoughts start coming through and I'm kicking my own self in the ass, but is that, sometimes I've just got to kind of myself into reality and say, give yourself a break.
Yeah.
Give yourself a break. You know what I mean? So, again, I am a person that loves to exceed expectations, and I'm very driven, and obviously business owners, we all want to be super successful, and you know what? I am, and you will be, but just, give yourself a break sometimes, There's a lot of stressed out, overwhelmed people that are just putting themselves at this standard that's so high, and I can relate to that, but sometimes when you're just thinking like that, I just want to say to the audience, sometimes you just got to take a break, you know what I mean, and let it go for the night, or, take a few days off to refocus and, figure out how to shift strategy. Don't give up, just shift.
So Cynthia, have you gotten better at doing that? Is that something that's becoming
Absolutely.
easier for you? Yeah.
Absolutely. You know, and the reason for that is really, again, which we really didn't touch on that point about the networking part of it, is that when I started really saying, you know what, I am going to be, you know, surrounding myself with people that are smarter than me, you know, people that inspire me, and they're business owners, and we really start swapping ideas and masterminding and really seeing what everybody else is going through. Yeah, you know what, it's totally changed. You know, now I get up in the morning and you know what, okay, what crap is going to happen today? I'm ready for it. Let's do bring it on. Bring it on. You know, that roller coaster ride, I'm not scared of it anymore. You know what I mean? Is that I'm ready to take it on. So
Yeah, and again, I love that. But you know, this is what I love about you guys. This is why, you know, we hang out together from on a number of occasions, because as Dave said earlier, it's authentic. Nobody's sitting here with cheesy smiles and saying it's all easy. I think we're being really honest, but at the same time, we're talking about keep that vision going. And I love your point, Cynthia, about sometimes we're our own worst critics. And we can tend to beat ourselves up far worse. I think of my inner voice, and I too am a perfectionist, and I say things to myself sometimes that if a friend said it to me, they'd be on the floor. I'd have swiped them down, struck them where they stood. And I suspect we all do that. So it's a really good share that you just gave. Again, I'm going to bring Dave up just for a moment, and I'm going to invite Susan back in, and then Sandra. Dave makes a good point as well around the fact that business isn't always easy, but the flip side is when people say running your own business is difficult, being successful is hard, being in charge is so tiring, I always say thank God, otherwise everyone would be doing it. So I love that, Dave, about you. That's absolutely superb. Thanks for that one. Susan, you're nodding very sagely.
I've heard so many wonderful things between the comments of Sandra and Cynthia, yourself, and Dave and Tanya. I mean, and it's just I think whether it is just me needing to express myself, or if I had employees whose livelihood depends upon how I'm doing and their paycheck, I think that dispositionally entrepreneurs are built differently than people who seek safety. And the very thing that is our great anxiety is also our great momentum. We put ourselves here on purpose. We could easily get a job where we check in and check out, but we don't. So as much as it is our conflict, it is our motivation. I agree with Cynthia. You should hear the dialogue in my head. For me, I have no excuse for me not to be stellar and fabulous and global in my message. Given my background, my time, my opportunity, my resources, I don't have one plausible excuse why I shouldn't be that. And boy, I wake up every morning and I think about it. And I'm like, damn, what do I have to do next? Now, I'd be the same way if I was running a corporation or I had a small business. I would feel the same way because it's a personality type. So the question is, how do we harness being lonely at the top? We put it on our shoulders. That's the nature of being an entrepreneur. We took it on. Okay, now we have to deal with it. And part of the courage is for the individual, I have to consciously self-talk and remind myself of realistic goals, a long game plan, a short-term plan with a long plan ahead of me, and then I also have to be honest with the people that I do employ and tell them my fears, my concerns. I mean, if I don't tell them, they're not going to know, and I can't worry that makes me looking less successful. Because these people, as I said, in my design are carefully crafted to be intimate, and they care about Susan, they care about my message. I need to tell them if I'm getting frustrated. I don't feel that I'm doing projects that are worthy, or I'm loving this. This feels rewarding. I think we're going somewhere with this. So I need to be very open and honest with my team to tell them where I'm at. And again, each aspect of this is a learning curve. Me handling myself and my expectations, me handling the people I work with, me handling my vision, me handling my fears. and me handling my dreams and merging all these together.
Susan, you always, yeah, I need to
document. That was perfectly said. There's such a course in that.
Oh no! I hit the wrong one, Susan. Let me bring it back to the field. My God, I ruined the moment. But yeah, I totally agree, Cynthia. I was just thinking, my God, this.
I'm trying to write it all down. You had a lot of great points in that.
Yeah,
living already.
Seriously, that was brilliant. Sorry, Cynthia, I spoke over you. Forgive me. What great points you were saying.
No, just awesome points. There was so much that she said in that little bit of time. I was actually trying to jot down some of her thoughts. Great reminders, great pointers. It was just really well said.
Yeah, I totally agree, and again, really, really honest, and I love the way you started off there, and I think we've all said it, and a lot of comments in the tracker have said it as well, Susan, that we're built slightly differently, and it's not us being arrogant. We've put ourselves in a position of entrepreneurialism, which doesn't mean that we're iron-skinned supermen or superwomen, and nothing challenges us, but it does mean that we've chosen a life of not the secure corporate employment, but to put ourselves out there to share our message. And that will be a rocky road, as Cynthia said, not without its challenges, but that core energy will keep us going. Now, we're in the last 15 minutes here, and we've talked about some advice, and we've shared some thoughts. And I know that you've all got slightly different business models, but you are all in business. And Sandra's had to disappear for a moment. I know she'll rejoin us shortly. But I think it's probably a really good time to invite. Are you still there? I can just see it. It's my vision. I'm getting old, Sandra. What's going on?
I'm looking right at her. Okay.
Are you? Well, I'm looking at a beautiful avatar, and she's back, and relax. It's what happens in the UK, Sandra. Every so often, we've only got limited internet over here, so everything goes dark, and we just imagine things. Sorry about that.
Not to worry, I was levitating for you.
Well, levitating, as you always do. It's always good to see you levitate. So I'm going to ask you to share some very specific things about your current projects in the last 10 minutes or so, and how people can connect with you. So Susan, I'll start with you. What are the big things that you're working on at the moment? What would you like to share with the audience, and what are the best ways people can connect with you?
The first thing that had come to my mind was I am collecting a group of 18 to 25-year-old men for personal purposes.
Okay.
No, I need. I'm coming to a new place. I'm learning how to do the video, okay, and I do my part well. It's just me sitting down to do it. So the only thing that stopped me for 2 years was the technical side of, okay, once I do it, how do I put it in the computer? Then how do I make the ends come off? And so that's all I'm doing. And plus, I'm choosing. I have another tactic. I've learned to work smart.
Right.
When I re-entered this profession after the book came out, and I did what all of my contemporaries were doing, and I realized that I wasn't starting on a level that was equal to where I was. So in the beginning, I did everything that people wanted me to do, and I found that I was spinning my wheels. So I have become very, very selective about the projects and the way in which I do even interviews, to make sure that my time is maximized and my productivity, and I am so much happier. I shot 4 over par yesterday, which is great. I have a private life, which is wonderful, so I'm learning to work smart. I'm not sure if I answered that. My goals are kind of private within myself as far as I do them. What you're going to see on the output's going to look the same.
Yeah,
it's just testing myself.
Do you know what? You did answer it. I just asked the wrong question.
No.
Yeah, no, I did in a way, because I'd be more interested in your out there business projects. Sorry, wrong way of putting it. Not more interested, but what I was asking was, tell us a bit more about what you're doing currently business-wise, that you'd like to share? I know obviously your expertise is relationship coach, and you're doing some great work. And the video, I think, is fantastic. Seeing you on those videos, they're really clean, they're really on message, they're really, really good. And is there anything you'd like to share about those generally?
No, actually, an interesting thing after a year and a half of marketing, my demographic is changing.
Right.
Another lovely observation that happens in our lives, and we have to go with it. I'm finding that men take instruction a lot better than women do, and men are great.
I'm not going to say anything.
Counseling, men they follow the instructions, they get great results. These things happen. You come to a big shift, and you have to go with it because it is what's happening. No matter what your research has shown to the point, you have to acknowledge what's in front of you. So I'm in a little bit of transition right now.
Sorry, you know, that's really good, but Dave is totally, I'm sorry, Dave has totally thrown me because he's commented on something you said earlier, Susan. So everything he said was really profound, as it always is. And then when I was taking everything on board, I saw this comment from Dave. So,
what over
well, you were talking about your golf, and you said you were 4 over par. And so Dave said
par.
So David
in
Moore.
America we say par, but in Britain it's par.
Yeah.
No. I try to have a social life. I didn't have a social life. I sat at my computer 10 hours a day, every day. I mean, it was horrific. That's what I needed to do till I learned to work smart. And now I'm able to have a balanced life, which is vitally important to me and more productive. I'm better when I come back to my work. So 4 over par.
so Susan, sorry, I'm sorry. Sorry, Susan, I interrupted you.
No, I just said 4 over par on a golf course.
Yeah. Okay. Now, Susan. So people can reach you. Par. Let's say the word par. Let's all say it. Susan. So people can reach you on www.susanwinter.net, and obviously we've touched on the fact you're a relationship coach, relationship expert, which doesn't really even begin to embrace what you do in terms of TV appearances, in terms of video, in terms of your writing, in terms of allowing magnificence. If there were 1 or 2 key things about what you're currently doing that you haven't already shared that you'd like to leave the audience with, what would those 1 or 2 things be?
People like myself, we are seeking to help you be the best version of yourself, whether it's life, love, or career. And just know that these resources are out there. And if you care to look at my website, I've got about 150 articles. Just take a look, all different categories. I'd like to see you reach your maximum potential.
And that is www.susanwinter.net, isn't it, Susan?
Exactly.
Yeah, cool. Fantastic, thank you. Cynthia, we've spoken a lot about building teams. You've shared a lot about your journey. You've shared a lot about the fact that when you were first an entrepreneur, maybe some of the people surrounding you, even the people closest to you, didn't have an entrepreneurial background. So it was a big step up for you. And I know, Cynthia, that surrounding yourself with a good team has always been really, really important to you. So all of those things are core values for you. What are the 1 or 2 things that you'd really like people to know about Cynthia Bazin at the moment, in addition to those perhaps?
There's 2 words that I focused in on for this year, and the 2 words that I have been getting out to my Smart Chicks, to my community, and to my membership program is, number 1, laser focus. I'm all about getting people clear and laser focused on their true mission and on their true passion. And then the other word that I'm so passionate about this year, and it's really worked, and I encourage others to do, is collaboration. Is that I really truly believe that my business shifted when I stopped doing things on my own, and I started really developing a community of other entrepreneurs in which we totally promote, encourage, support, and do things together. And so, I just, am blessed that I've been part of a couple collaborations that came out this last week. a couple different books that, you know, again, not my own books, but co-author in, which I'm just really happy about. Stepped out of my comfort zone and started it. So one of them is, if you don't mind me showing it.
No, please do.
It's called Energize Your Leadership. Basically, this is just an amazing thing about social media. I'm going to just make this 10 seconds or less. I'll try. Is that the power of social media? 16 of us from all over the world met on social media, and over the past several years, we've been talking, Google Hangouts. We all had the same vision, and we decided that 16 of us would put together our thoughts on leadership and positivity inside a book. So it's pretty awesome that you can meet people on social media and then get a pretty cool business venture together. And then the other book that I, you know, this part of, again, it's just, this is more of a question answer, easy read, is that someone asked me to be part of Behind Her Brand. Basically, it's a question answer book that basically what's behind Smart Chick and what's behind 11 other female brands. What are the disappointments? What are the challenges? What are the things that you went through when you first started a business? And what are some smart tips that you can give? It isn't just for female brands, it's for everybody, but basically, what can we do to inspire you through what we went through? So anyways, yeah, those were the recent projects, and as far as services go, you know, collaboration. I have a membership program for people for support, tools, and resources in which we all do that together, and we inspire one another and promote one another. So that's what I'm working on, and it's right on there on the banner, but smartchick.me is the best place where you can get in touch with me.
Fantastic. Cynthia, thank you very much. So www.smartchick.me for Cynthia, www.susanwinter.net for Susan. Sandra, if there were one thing that's come out of the show for you as an entrepreneur, as a female entrepreneur, and as a brilliant entrepreneur I've had the great pleasure with working with for quite some time, as you reflect on what we've learned from Susan and Cynthia, what would the core thing be about the show for you?
Well, very much. Two different personalities, but both with dynamic messages. I think that, you know, Susan tends to be more of the soft side of entrepreneur, I say, and Cynthia comes out, boy, you come out with that blistery side. Yeah, exactly. I mean, both of you have that that passion and that go get it. That, you know, I'm going to get it done, and that comes out of it, and that is entrepreneurship. I'm going to get it done.
Yeah, I beautifully put, and for me, I'm going to almost answer the question I just posed, Sandra. For me, firstly, not only is it a great pleasure and privilege to hang out with you guys, but the I'm going to get it done attitude from both of you is absolutely magnificent, and the way that you both are on that path of connecting with other people, getting your message out there, keeping that belief going, and really doing this with authenticity is probably the reason why, or one of the many reasons why you're so successful. You know, you do see gurus out there, and I use the word in inverted commas, that you just wonder whether they're being genuine. I've never had that trouble with you guys. We've all connected on social media, and immediately I connected with you guys. I knew you were real, and that continues to be the case. So, as always, it's been a great pleasure and a great privilege. Don't forget, guys, www.susanwinter.net and www.smartchick.com. Thank you to you guys. Thank you to my good friend Sandra Watson. Round of applause for all of us. Thanks, guys, in the audience. And thank you for a terrific show. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye, guys. See you soon.
Cheers. Thank you.
Bye. Bye.